In this day and age, global trade happens. In this day and age, global trade happens on a massive scale and involves an almost unimaginable amount of products. Global trade is simply the exchange of goods between countries. When you ship a product to another country, that's exporting. When you have a product shipped to you from another country, that's importing. Global trade is part of our day-to-day life. Even the most basic products we buy, bananas, chocolate, coffee, are products that are imported from other countries. Global trade has been happening for centuries. Even before the Egyptians built the pyramids, countries were exchanging everything from precious stones to spices. At one point in history, nutmeg was actually worth more than gold. One of our favorite products, chocolate, was imported to California from Mexico in the 1800s. Companies like Ghirardelli and Guitard started to make chocolate with this imported cocoa, and today they are exporting their chocolate products to dozens of countries around the world. In fact, only a few decades ago, most people in China had never tasted chocolate. Chocolate is expected to be the most imported candy product to China in 2016, much of which will be imported from the United States and Europe. California wines have undergone a similar growth in popularity. Over $1 billion worth of California wine was shipped around the world last year, most of it to Europe, but also to countries as far away as Nigeria and Singapore. Global trade can help create, sustain, and grow businesses. One California business, Sea Breacher, exports nearly 80% of its main product, a recreational submersible watercraft. Located in Redding, California, the company was founded in 2006 by Rob Innes and Dan Piazza. Their interest in design, mechanics, and aquatics led them to building custom watercraft. Today, they build their submersible watercrafts for customers around the globe, as far away as places like South Africa, the United Arab Emirates, Australia, and Bulgaria. We tend to think of global trade as applying only to products, but it also has a huge economic impact on services. For instance, the US is a global leader in providing legal services, consulting services, financial.
Okay, I'm not sure if everyone can hear.
No sound now.
Okay. No, but I think that was the end of the video.
It's an introduction.
Yes, the introduction. Over to you, Mano.
Okay, the next slide, show the entire slide.
Yes, Mano, you can proceed.
The slide hasn't come up, Truman.
It hasn't come up.
Yeah, the global trade, logistic, land, global trade, slide number.
Okay, okay. Let me just reshare. I'm not sure what happened, but on my side, it's on. And how is it now?
No, it hasn't come up.
Boy.
One.
Okay, let me try one more time. And now?
Okay, you got it. We're going to start from, I have quickly put in the actual key topics that we are looking at. You can read it. I don't have to repeat everything to you. And it basically welcoming you, exactly telling you what the course is going to be about. It also explains to you the involvement in relation to the actual parties involved in global trade, and to tell you this is a free preview. Next one. Next slide. Right. Now we're going to start with them. What is global trade? Where do we start? Point one. Global trade is the lifeblood of business in any country. Some people say it's the lifeblood of commerce in any country. To understand this topic, it's quite vast. We covered this in our course, and basically what is illustrated here is the parties that are doing business, when they involve globally, it involves a tremendous amount of areas of concern from the time when they want to place an order or make inquiries of an order, then place an order and have the goods delivered to them in irrespective countries. So you have two parties involved, and we talk about it as we go along, right? Next point. These parties that we want through our organization, SCA Global, for you to understand our perspective in offering this to you, not only in relation to what is expected from an entrepreneurial side, but also in relation to the actual party or the person involved in the studying of this particular course. Truman have already illustrated that to you. Now, I think we put the entire slide in, Truman, and cover this at one stage.
Sure.
The involvement of global trade basically covers a flow of various movements in relation to product, in relation to information, in relation to money, in relation to risk. In the course itself, it will be illustrated, highlight to you, not only theoretically, but we will give you case studies to show you how the flow of goods are moved. We call it cargo flow. What documents are required in the actual process. We call it information flow. How would you pay for your shipment? We call it methods of payment. And the risk, what are the hazardous effects or harmful effects of doing business? We will discuss that in full. Next one. I think you can show this again in full. Right. Here we are saying it highlights to you the first category of the flow of goods. The flow of goods mean the goods have to move from one country to another country, right? And actually, you have two people involved. One is the supplier, and one is the buyer. It actually illustrates you what is the responsibilities of the supplier and what will be the responsibilities of the buyer. It actually highlights to you before a sale can be initiated, you have to have a sales contract, like anything to do with business. And in the sale contract, it covers various areas, particularly pertaining to the actual product, price, place, all the P's that are involved in supply chain management. And the most important thing, the delivery or the transportation of the actual shipment. That means you to have a good understanding of what Incoterms. All these topics will be covered in our discussions in our courses. It also highlights to you how cargo has to be packed, how they have to be handled, how they have to be labeled, etc. We'll talk about it as the slides go along. Then we talk about the role of customs and other related parties, governments, both from the foreign country as well as the actual destination country. Next slide, please. Full slide. Here we are saying that there are let's go back to, there are two most important people in any transaction when you involve in global trade. And the two parties are, one, the seller, and the buyer. The seller in normal terms under international trading is termed as an exporter, and a buyer is termed as an importer. We're going to understand how these two parties are involved, and we will describe in detail the actual, you must say, principles, processes, and the actual procedures they would follow, how to make sure that everything is successful in the transaction. Next one, please. Full slide. Okay, here we're giving you the definition of what's an exporter. Here the definition say, in terms, this term export is derived from the conceptual meaning of to ship and the goods and services out of the port of a country. The seller of the goods and services referred to as the exporter. Ex means away from a particular port, that is the term exporter has been derived from. Now, here they talk about, you have to understand the term exports, what it entails, the actual functions involved in it. You have to understand the procedures, processes. You have to understand the legality involved in law in relation to the terms in a country of origin, country of destination of the word exports. All this will be covered in the actual course itself. Special considerations, trade barriers, and others. Trade barriers, simply put to you, is basically a method of protection that an importing country would impose to stop exporters just dumping goods into a country. We have them in South Africa. We have a trade barrier where we have tariffs, duties are imposed. Certain countries pay very high duties. We have anti-dumping duties and many other features of trade barriers, simply having permits. We have restrictions, etc., and prohibited goods. Plans of export sale transaction. You have to understand how you go about trying to execute a sale, accepting offers, how to go about making contracts, etc., where to purchase your goods, what are the types of goods you're looking for. All those features will be also discussed in the actual course itself. Arranging export logistics is simply a fact that, like anything, exports originally when it started, an exporter had his goods available to a buyer or an importer, and it ended up there. Today's world, the word logistics kicked in the last, say, almost 30 odd years, where it moved from a particular warehouse to a particular warehouse. We have to explain that in detail. From logistics, the next term that kicked in was called supply chain, and supply chain simply means from a supplier's supplier to a consumer's consumer. We would also look at that in our, as I say, discussion on global trade. Carry out export financing and risk management, which I spoke about, and I'll give you more illustration a little later. Export in compliance with statutory requirements. No matter where you export, a country of imports would have the rules and regulations, and the government there in that particular company would outlay and make it known what is required, who can bring goods, are you a registered party, what are your terms and conditions, what are you supposed to bring in, what are the penalties involved, how we protect our local industries, how we protect our own consumption. All those features are taken into consideration. Likewise, when we export, the same scenario kicks in. Next slide, please. We spoke about the exporter. Vice versa, we're now looking at the importer. When goods come into a country, the person is called what a person is termed an importer. The importer has to comply with the rules and regulations, firstly, to be registered as an importer. He has to have a license. He has to have a business. He has to follow the rules for customs and SARS in relation to importing into the country. And they ask you, what is your needs? He must understand how to transport his goods. He'll have to understand what products he require. He'll have to understand exactly where he's going to get his goods from. All these factors, other than also the logistic part of it, is important under imports. And most important, it is the actual documentation that is required for the verification of the product in relation to the flow of the goods, the flow of information, the flow of money, the flow of risk. Next slide, please. Here we look at actually when one enters into a import and export transaction, a very important feature that must never be overlooked is having actually a sales contract. 90% of businesses do the business on a sales contract. There is 10% of businesses that do not actually have a sale contract. They just have a confirmation letter and they go ahead and start getting involved in international trading or global trading. We would discuss that in relation to controlling how would you contract a price, what currencies are involved, understanding how would you pay in relation to the currency, what import complications or compliances are required, what are the delivery terms, that is in relation to Incoterms, what are the delivery commitments, what are the payment commitments, if there is a risk, how do you protect your risk, how do you be compensated to protect your loss. You have marine insurance, we discussed that aspect of it. Then we look at the documents in relation to responsibilities, and the most important thing, or the most important documentation in global trade is the bill of lading. The bill of lading, irrespective of what mode of transport you use, you have to work with a bill of lading. It's termed differently in different countries. In South Africa, ocean bill of lading is for ocean shipments, air freight bills of lading for air freight. For a transport shipment, you have transport delivery notes, but in North America, we don't call them delivery notes, we call them inland bill of ladings, right? And we have documents of that nature we have to understand internationally or when we do global business. Then we look at your creditors, your terms and conditions, and if there is unforeseen circumstances, how you go about overcoming and looking into that. Next slide, please. Now, we had a question asked earlier about South Africa and its role it plays, and I decided to put this on here for you. No, just leave that there. And you'll find basically a very important thing to remember here is that the question was asked how we can encourage more trade and have more productivity and have goods, let's say, manufactured here locally and sent out of South Africa to our neighboring border. Right now, there's an agreement going on right through Africa. The AU has been formed, and they're now trying to, let's say, encourage more trading within our African territories. And South Africa would be quite an important player in this. Just a matter of interest to you. One would ask, who is the biggest trading partner of the United States of America? everybody will put their hands up and say China. Some people will say Europe. Some people or some parties will say different parts of the world. You know who's the biggest trading partner of USA? Canada. Right to the northern side of it is Canada, USA on the south. The population of the USA is almost 380 million. Canada only has less than 40 million. But the biggest trading partner of the United States of America is Canada. Why did I say this to you? I'm trying to make you recognize the fact that we in South Africa can also be a Canada, and we can now export to almost every part of Africa from South Africa. And we will cover this in our course when we do trade agreements. Next one, please.
Okay, before we proceed, I see Gordon has his hand raised. Gordon, did you want to say something?
No, nothing really. I couldn't hear, but
Winnie?
now I can hear clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed, Manu.
Okay, good. I did highlight to you about the Incoterms, and I said to you, Incoterms is a term that is used after the Second World War, right? A lot of merchants were having problem with the shipments arriving and having areas where there were shipments that were not delivered on time, there were misunderstanding, etc. And at that time, a group of traders got together and they decided to form a group with the help of some lawyers, and they formed a group called the ICC. ICC simply means International Chamber of Commerce. The International Chamber of Commerce is responsible for the introduction of Incoterms. I'm not going to talk about Incoterms in detail here. I have a lesson on that on its own. Truman will put it on for you. It's a very important area when you do global trade or understanding. It's a half-a-day course or one-day course, and you can finish that very quickly. But what is it? What are Incoterms? Incoterms basically helps you to understand the actual transaction that is involved in the sale is not the actual area of concern when you do Incoterms. It is the delivery of the goods. When you look at delivery, it actually highlights to you what is the responsibility of the seller, what is the responsibility of the buyer. And there are 11 Incoterms introduced in the 2020 Incoterm, right, introduction. It started in January 2020. And I will do a complete presentation on that in our other courses. The parties here are going to be responsible in the carriage and transportation of the goods. The terms are 11 terms. Each term has an interpretation. Each interpretation clearly highlights the definition and the responsibilities in various factors, going up to almost 10 points of what is the responsibility of the buyer, what is the responsibility of the seller. If I illustrate anything of that, I can spend a whole day with you discussing this. I thought I'll just run through it right now and give you that understanding. It also, Incoterms is also very much used for customs clearance. For customs, they want to know what is the FOB value for them to determine the value for duty purpose. So Incoterms is vital there. Incoterms is also very important in relation to insurance purposes, to the banks, to when you have any regulations in relation to the SOLAS agreement for the steamship lines, because of the weight of the shipment, how it affects the price. So all these factors can be talked about when we do Incoterms. Next slide, please. Please bear in mind, this is only a preview. The next one I got here, I thought I'd get you to get involved, and knowing that this is covered also in the actual courses, is cargo care, packing, marking, labeling, handling, and safety in global supply chain. One would argue, oh, what we talking about packing? when you move cargo internationally, you don't use the same packing as you use for normal cargo. For example, if you order something through, say, from a local business, you're going to find that the corrugated cardboard that the goods are put into that comes to you may be a one ply. But when you bring goods from overseas, you're going to use the corrugated cardboard, which will be three ply, meaning it's going to be quite thick. It has to be protected. It protects the goods within. There are many reasons why you protect it. From the time, you can look at this example here, from the time, okay, the 1 year where you have the packages, from the time when the goods are ready, it goes through various processes, goes through this entire cycle. And when that cycle is involved, everybody's involved in the cycle, they would have to take precautions to make sure that packages are well secured, that packages are comply with export regulation rules, that the goods are export packed professionally. It's also a requirement to identify the goods, actually to also how to handle the goods. You have identifications. By looking at the goods, you know how to handle it. The other one is the safety features. And lastly, by having the goods packed properly, insurance companies would pay you your claim as soon as possible if there is a claim submitted to the insurance company. But if the goods are not export packed, professionally export packed, insurance companies would decline your claim on the grounds that the goods are insufficiently packed. So we would discuss all these issues that are shown here on my slide, and all that features would give you a good indication how important it is to make sure goods are protected. That's the word. Thank you. Next one. I said to you, an important factor in relation to getting goods moving is to also cover your risk. And a lot of parties got involved in making sure that they insure the goods against anything to do with something that can go wrong in the process of your goods. You have to understand insurance terms and conditions. You have to understand the terms and conditions in relation to what is, again, who is going to be the party who's going to insure it, who's the party going to receive the goods, what are the rates they're going to pay. All those factors are taken into consideration. At this point, I want to mention to you to make you realize marine insurance was the first form of insurance in the world. There were no other forms of insurance prior to marine insurance being introduced. It started all at a coffee shop called Lloyd's Coffee Shop in London. That's when insurance actually started. To discuss that, you have to do the course, and I'll give you a complete lesson from start to end on marine insurance. Thank you. Next one. Next slide, please. Okay, role players. At this point, I just want to highlight to you to make you understand. I said to you the main parties involved in a transaction globally is the buyer and the seller, an exporter and an importer. But we know there are various other important role players involved in the transaction. I've given you a chart here, and I showed you from the time the goods are ordered placed, you have an exporter, you have a forwarder, you have a consolidator, you have a haulage company. Haulage company simply is American terminology, or even in English, European terminology. It simply means a cartage company, right? You have port authorities, customs, you have the carrier. Carrier means a steamship carrier, air carrier, which mode of transport you're using. Now that is the origin side. Then we have the destination side. Vice versa, the same applies. We would discuss all these role players in detail in our discussions. In my headings here, you'll come to know about the importer, exporter, how do the banks get involved, what are their functions, what is a commercial bank, what is the reserve bank. We will discuss that in detail. We'll come to know about our ports, that is our seaports, our airports, our border points in South Africa, right? We will talk about the Department of Customs and Excise. We'll talk about all the different type of carriers involved by land, by sea, by air, by road. That is the modes of transport. You come to know who's a freight forwarder, who's a custom broker, about insurance companies, about verification bodies. Verification bodies are people that are third-party interest companies, recognized companies worldwide, who do inspections of goods, also quality checks, etc. All that could be discussed. And then we talk about our consulate office, the Chamber of Commerce, quite involved. All is covered. And then we talk about government-related bodies, government and government-related bodies. You bring in chicken out of America coming to South Africa. It just don't come here. You have to look at the Department of Agriculture. You have to work with them very closely before you can even import a chicken. All these factors would have to be taken into consideration. Thank you. Next one. Then we talk about role of customs. I showed this separately because customs are a very integral part of global trade. And I said to you, you have origin, you have destination. No matter which global business you are involved in, no matter which part of the world you are involved in, the country of origin would always be involved with customs clearance in their part, and that is normally for export clearances. At the country of destination, you're going to get involved with customs in relation to when goods are brought into the country, and that is import regulations that you comply with customs. We would in detail highlight and go through the actual procedure involved at origin with customs and at destination with customs, the actual full mechanics and the process and procedures, also the law, the rules, the regulations pertaining to that will be also discussed there. Next one, please. On here, I only decided to give you a highlight of this to make you realize how important is the information flow. When people speak of information flow, they only think two people are involved, that is exporter and importer. But from this particular chart here and the actual features that are highlighted on this particular PowerPoint slide, you would notice that when we talk of global trade, we have an import-export documentation flow. We have commercial documents, we have financial documents, we have transport documents, we have insurance document, we have many other features as well. Then we talk about the contracts. We have a sales contract, a contract of carriage, financial contract, and you have a risk contract. Okay, all these features would be highlighted and discussed in the actual course. Next one, please. On here, we talked about now all the other flows. We come to the one on financial flow. Financial flow, everybody is interested in where am I, how am I, when would I get my money? That can be easily discussed and easily understood if we discuss this whole procedure. And we have a complete lesson on the methods of payment. What is trade finance? Trade finance means the exporter wants his money when the shipment goes. What's the process? What's the procedure? How does he get his money? Who are the parties involved? What must he take? What must he do? What types of options are available to him? All these are open account, advance payment, documentary credit, documentary collection, consignment payments. All these features would be discussed in our lessons as well. Thank you. Next one. This is the last one on risk. Like everything in life, and I said, global trade covers virtually everything under the sun. And the most important thing under the sun is risk in life. In global trade, we also have risk of exporting and importing, country risk, buyer's risk, seller's risk, transport risk, financial risk, quality of product risk, exchange fluctuation risk, legal risk, unforeseen risk, investment risk. Many other factors can kick in as well. All these, we have a lesson on it, and we cover that in relation to global trade, linked with logistics and supply chain management. And basically, from my side, I just want to highlight, this is a preview. I wanted to introduce this preview to you to make you realize that if you venture into this particular area in your career, or if you haven't done it, or you are involved in it, and you're doing this particular course, I can assure you it is something of a plus to you. It will definitely be of a very important progress in your part, in your career, right? And as I always say, it covers you to go further and get the actual requirements you want to. I myself at one time worked for a company. Today, I am an entrepreneur myself, and then I educator now. I've given this time of my retirement age to educate as well. And I can assure you, by working with our groups as SCA Global, you would get the best material, best substance, and the best knowledge. And of course, you'll be certified, and you would definitely be an asset to your organization. From my side, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that preview, Mano. Wasn't that interesting? You know, it feels already we are in this international trade course. I see, Mano, we've got a hand raised from Gordon. So Gordon, I hope you didn't raise that hand erroneously this time. Do you want to come in and say something?
No, I just wanted to compliment the presenter in the vast knowledge that he has in all these areas, you know.
Thank you.
This is it's quite a very broad subject. I mean, I come from a shipping background as well, but when I look at these and I look at your expertise, it's quite vast. I can also learn from you, sir.
We all each other.
Yeah, this is another Cape Town from Canada, Gordon. I'm not sure if you've seen or met.
No.
Okay, so but it's fine. I was actually telling him that he's the captain indeed, because he's been in the space for over 40 years, from Canada to US and then back to South Africa. So
this is over 50 years service.
That's what I wanted to comment on. Your vast knowledge and experience. It's hard to match, and you can't buy that, you know. So I'm just looking. I'd just like to know what company you work for, sir. Which was the company you work for?
In South Africa, I started with Fred Cohen and Goldman, which eventually became Safcon, right?
Yes.
I was the first non-whites employed in the business in shipping, one of them. There was one, two, but I can discuss that when I meet. Then one day I moved to Freight Services, which was part of the Anglo-American Corporation. Freight Services eventually was taken over by Freight Services broke away from freight forwarding. I left in 1976. Then Rennie's, I believe, took over. Rennie's is now Midwest, etc.
Yeah.
Okay? So my experience goes from ground level. Then when I arrived in Canada, I opened Panalpina's office in Canada. I set up
Okay.
the office in 1976 in Toronto, right?
Yo.
And in 1986, I started my own company.
Right.
But I'm retired and it's a family business. It's run by
Right.
my children. I'm back in South Africa. And while I'm here, I still want to plug and contribute and help the community.
I think you got a wealth of knowledge, to share with everyone. So you can't just park that knowledge,
Absolutely.
That's true.
And Gordon
I've
Experience.
been with, just to let you know that I started off with Freight Marine, the ex-Freight Services, and then became Freight Marine. I started with Freight Marine with Peter Baker, Peter Krobler, and all these people, in
Oh, yes,
1984. Yes,
Yeah.
So part of the same group that I worked for, and then we later became SAF Marine.
Right, correct.
Yeah, yes. Thanks for your wealth of experience here. I can see a lot that we can learn from you, sir.
Hey, we just got muted. So thank you for that, Gordon. I see we've got another question. I didn't see the person's name. So if you could just come in and say something.
Thank you so much, Mano, for the expedition and presentation. It's quite insightful. I just wanted to ask a question, since you're very much experienced in the global logistics landscape. Apparently,
sorry, if not to interrupt there, can we have your name just quickly?
Oh, sorry, my name. Oh, I thought I wrote my name on the chat when you
there.
asked me to introduce. My name is Zazi Sosibo. I'm a demand Sosibo. SOS. Yes, I'm a demand planner for ShopRite in Cape Town, based in Cape Town. I just wanted to ask a question, sir, since you're quite experienced in this field from a landscape perspective. Apparently, South Africa is one of the most strategic points from a map shipping perspective. Like I would hear, even when from a political standpoint, people would even go to it politically and saying that countries want to have so much influence on South Africa, as it has the balance of power in terms of how you move goods. If you want to move goods from one continent to another, one has to pass through South Africa. Hence, it's a strategic point. I'd like you to shed a bit more light on the advantages of South Africa, if you can, sir.
Yes, I could help you. South Africa has always been an integral part of global trade, and it became what I call a trade route for all, must I say, Western countries and Eastern countries. Prior to the opening of the Suez Canal, you have to go back to some history here, right? And all goods, no matter where it moved right around the world, everything went past the Cape of Good Hope, everything. It's only after the Second World War, towards the latter part in the 50s, the Suez Canal opened up a little wider, and then ships are going through there, okay? But South Africa still gets a tremendous share on it. However, I think Gordon would also realize this and will mention to you that most of the steamship line that are coming into the ports coming to South Africa, they use South Africa also as a hub. MSC is the biggest carrier of goods coming into Africa because they use the port of Durban as a hub for local cargo and for transshipment purposes. Many other steamship lines are doing that. Likewise, South Africa, its position allows not only for our sea route traffic, but also for our, I must say, traffic that move by air. But we have created our own problems, and we lost our own sea freight carriers. For example, Surfmarine was once a South African flag carrier. Today, even South African Airways is not around. So it hurt us to realize that two of our important carriers can cause us some concern. To some extent, I see the present government is going all out to make improvements in that and remedy that. I do see a lot of changes that are coming in to the ports of Durban. The Port of Durban is one of the best ports in the Southern Hemisphere. It is true. It may have lost ground, but at one stage it was the most important port in the Southern Hemisphere. Right now, I can't go out for the number. I may have to do some research again. However, to answer your question about the importance of South Africa is a very industrialized country. South Africa has all the resources to manufacture goods. I did give you an illustration where South Africa now belongs to various trade agreements. I've only given you one day. And if we really put our mind and soul into working together and building our manufacturing sector and industries, producing the necessary raw materials, semi-finished goods and finished goods in its proper sequence, we are going to be quite a powerhouse in Africa. Africa, believe me when I say this, I may not see it in my lifetime, right? But it won't be long when Africa will become a very important continent in the world in relation to world trade power. It's going to come, right? Because all the other countries and other continents are getting exhausted slowly. So answer for you is simple. Be prepared, work towards it. As long as we have the right leaders, we have the right approach, we have the right, thinking, we have the right people, I think we will definitely still achieve it.
Absolutely. And that's going to be in your lifetime, Mano, not to interrupt there. But, you know, I just need to say that let us pray and hope that it happens in our lifetime. And Zazi, I'm not sure if that answers your question. Mano, do you want to still add something there?
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Truman, hello.
Yes, Gordon, you can come in.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Mano has said. I think one needs to look at it this way as well. We, South Africa, in the continent, are rated like a first world country in the continent because of our infrastructure, our constitution, and in terms of goods moving in by South African ports. The other good thing that we have here is that many countries are landlocked. You know, they can't move things. You can move things only by road and rail, and then they bring it down to our port. And we have the advantage of the seaport, being a seaport to carry. And because the wealth of Africa lies in minerals and resources, they're heavily dependent on the country to move things through our ports and our seas. And it's also very, very safe to move it within our borders. Our borders are considered to be, if you look at throughout Africa, our borders are considered to be safe and seem to be strict. Yes, we do have our corruption, but it's slowly bending and it's falling. As you can see, very few countries in the world will arrest the president. And that speaks volumes for our constitution. And that's why the world has faith in South Africa as well. So it's as Mano said, that the future is quite strong and the world is looking at us for more global trade in terms of moving cargo via our ports.
Yes, and you know, what a better way to actually inspire that hope by making sure that Africa can actually trade, you know, with itself, encouraging all the you know, countries within the continent to actually make sure that they tap into the opportunities that are presented by these free trade agreements, and you know, actually pushing government to make sure that they implement these things and open the borders for Africans, for all the companies within the continent to be able to trade with one another without any restrictions, which is something that we've seen in the past. It continues to happen even till this day, where you would find that to export something to Nigeria, you'd have to actually go through a lot of hoops and loops, and it becomes really a very complicated and discouraging process for entrepreneurs within the continent.
True. Very true. And any feedback for any learners? Any participants who anything they like to know about the actual topic?
Yeah. Feel free. We've come to the end. This is the Q&A sessions that we're going through. So if you've got any questions, comments, you can just shout.
All right, I'll leave it to you then.
Okay. All right. No, I take it that there are no further questions, Manu. I see everyone is quiet. I don't see any messages in the chat box. So we are going to wrap it up.
Thank you.
So this is essentially the course certificate that one would get. This is just a sample. So if you attend the full course that Mano was talking about, you'd get certified in global trade. So this is the kind of a certificate that you would get on completion. But I must also say, this program is just one program within a whole host of other programs that we are offering in as far as maritime and shipping courses are concerned. So the advanced shipping or global trade programs, there's an advanced program, the paid option, which you can also take if you want to further your studies, if you want to broaden your knowledge in terms of all things international trade. So we've also got a one-day full course that is also based on the very same topic on global trade. If you want to specifically take on a course on that topic. And there is a certificate in shipping, which is called Certified Shipping Professional, CSP, right? Or Certified in Global Trade, which is CGT. All right. Last but not least, like I said, there's a whole host of other skills programs, short courses, year-long programs. And I must say that, those that are in South Africa, these programs are also accredited by TITA, which is the transport sector. So we've got a wide range. You can take it as a short course. You can take it as a year-long program, from level 2 all the way through to level 6. So international trade, there's freight forwarding and customs clearance. There's, the national certificate in supply chain management. There's the diploma in freight forwarding and customs clearance. And we can also customize for those that are in the shipping lines, freight forwarding agents, in the courier, companies. If there's a specific program, it could be freight handling. Yeah. Thank you, Mano. Freight handling for those that are in the courier industry. So those are the type of programs. But like I said earlier, in terms of these programs, they are delivered by the likes of Mano, who's one of the industry experts that are delivering these programs. So we are able to go as far as customizing the program specifically for your organization. So if you are a corporate team, maybe there's a specific topic that you want to focus on. we can customize a program around that that is going to talk to your environment, your needs, and the type of challenges that you might be facing. And of course, at the end of that, it's not just a piece of paper. We are very much industry centric. We want to make sure that all the students, the professionals that have actually taken these courses are able to go back to their respective work environments and apply the knowledge, the tools, the skills that they've learned from these courses. Gone are the days where, you know, the employers will hire you based on a piece of paper and to be surprised by non-performance once you've been employed by the organization. So what we are offering is not just content or theory. We give you practical industry examples, case studies that we go through. Part of the course, you'll also have group discussions. You'll also have, you know, presentations that you do on a particular topic just to reflect on that particular topic, do a little bit of research on that particular topic if you're given an assignment or a presentation, a group presentation that you need to do in class just to demonstrate your understanding of that particular topic. So with that being said, I would say, I think lastly, in terms of the exams, so we've got a combination of two things. There's local exams for those that are taking on the CETA accredited programs, or you might be interested in the international exam for one of the courses. I haven't included everything on the screen. So we've got a combination of local and international courses, not only in shipping, but the entire range really, supply chain management related courses, management and leadership, operations management, logistics. I can go on and on and on. So for those that might need more information on that, you can visit our website or the social media platforms on LinkedIn, the Supply Chain Academy, SCA Global, or just the SCA Global. That's our, you know, main name, or should I say the what they call it, the hashtag. So if you just search for the SCA Global on LinkedIn, you're able to pick up the page and, you know, just browse through if you need more information on the other courses. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the SCA Global, on Facebook, Supply Chain Academy, SCA SA. So with that being said, I'm just gonna end it at that. And yeah, if there are any questions, we are still here. Feel free to interact. We've also included the link in the comments for those that might be interested in taking this further and to enroll for the full course. So these are the details. If you need to reach out to us, if you've got anything that you'd like to know more, feel free to use those details. You can take a screenshot and yeah, but at the moment, maybe we'll allow everyone to, let's say in the next 2 minutes, if there are no questions, then we are going to terminate the session. Gordon, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just want to also add that the students that are are listed with the academy, we also have some links into shipping companies, some of the top 5 shipping companies, where they often come to us, recruiters are looking for students, you know, and then we also will help to recommend you to some companies. I mean, today I was talking to Maersk Line and they were telling me about they're looking at a new intern program. So often at times, if you're studying with us at the academy, we can always, you know, look at positioning you in certain companies or directing you to companies that come to us and are looking for students, you know.
Absolutely.
So I thought I'll just mention that as well. We have in APAC Lloyd, I think we've taken about 14 graduates to APAC Lloyd. Some of the graduates are now employed there. We've also taken students to MES shipping line at that time from our academy. So we do link up our students with the corporate world as well through our links and our inroads with the corporate companies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Gordon. How can we forget to mention that, especially
Yeah.
for those that are coming straight out of matric?
Yeah.
If you are already in the industry, you know, that wouldn't appeal to you. But for someone who's out of matric or you're currently in matric, we really encourage that you consider taking supply chain as a profession or as a career, specifically shipping. Very interesting part of supply chain. There isn't a lot of people that have actually, you know, to be more specific, young people in the shipping industry. There isn't a lot of, you know, people there. So there's very exciting opportunities, like Gordon mentioned. So we continue to link up with a lot of shipping lines, freight forwarding agents, and multinational corporates to make sure that what we are teaching, once you get that qualification, you are already linked up with the industry. You know what is expected, and you know, if you are fortunate enough, then you are able to also get a work exposure type of arrangement, so that by the time you finish the course or on completion, you are able to apply the knowledge that you've learned. So with that being said, seeing that there are no hands, no comments in the session, I would take it that brings us to the end of the session. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you so much, Mano.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Yes.